Hello viewers, this is the last part of our series on the classified catalog code. So far, we were discussing the preparation of catalog entries for different types of documents according to CCC. Having understood the choice and rendering of different types of authors and documents, let us now take up some of the problems and issues relating to CCC. We will start with examining some of the libraries which are following this code and see whether they are following it in toto or they have made some variations. After that, we will seek opinion of some of the academicians regarding different aspects of this code. Let us start with the Nehru Memorial Museum Library. This library has been using the classified catalog code for the preparation of its catalogs since its inception. The major factors that determined the choice of this code was that the library was the most used library by research scholars, and a systematic catalog was the requirement. It is commonly said that the knowledge of classification scheme is necessary for consultation of the classified catalog. Is it so? Mrs. Verma's opinion in this regard is that CCC provides for author and title approaches. So people who are not familiar with the scheme may consult the alphabetical part of the catalog that satisfies author, title and other approaches. It is only the classified part that knowledge is required about the scheme. The code prescribes that the catalog entries is to be divided into two parts, the classified and the alphabetical. But in the Nehru Memorial Museum Library, we found that it is divided into three parts, classified, alphabetical and a separate list of subject headings. Also, we found that they have incorporated imprint and collation in the main entry. These bibliographic details help the scholars a great deal. They also aid in verification of books for acquisition purpose. Let us now shift the scene to the Delhi University Library. It is also following the classified catalog code since its inception. Let us find out from Professor A.P. Srivastava, the librarian, about his experience with CCC.
My experiences with classified catalog code are very rich and rewarding because, as you know, classified catalog code had been intellectually a superior equipment, and through this equipment one could measure, organize information and knowledge in a multidimensional manner and also retrieve and disseminate it to our users in a comprehensive way from all possible approaches.
What changes were made in their catalog to suit the needs of the users?
Imprint, collation, title entries and analytical entries in sufficient number are incorporated.
Apart from the inclusion of imprint and collation, we also found out that they have adopted the unit card system, in which the main entry is prepared according to CCC and all the other added entries are duplicated from it. This is done to save the time of the cataloger. This was possible with the advancement in duplication technology. Now, with the rapid development of information technology, Where does classified catalog code stand? What is its future?
The classified catalog code as it exists today has to look into the details of challenges that are going to come to it in the future. And modern technology is developing so fast that it shall bring with it numerous challenges for classified catalog code. And not only classified catalog code, any entity will have to regulate itself, adapt itself, provide for its suitability for the future needs. And therefore, classified catalog code should not be an exception. It should ultimately develop and incorporate the requirements of future technology so that numerous libraries and information centers are in a position to adapt it.
Now, let us visit the JNU library and see what is the situation there. JNU library has been following the classified catalog code for 2 decades. However, in the recent past, that is from 1990 onwards, they decided to abandon this and have adopted the Anglo-American Cataloging Rules, 2nd edition. What made them to come to such a decision? Let us listen to what Professor Nanda, librarian, has to say about it.
It served our purpose well till the modernization of the libraries, the computerization of the libraries, the modern technology knocked at our doors. We have been actually backward in this respect. Our library schools have not done much in the field of computerization, and when it came with a bang. The result was that we, the librarians, had to wake up. And when we woke up, we found that we were not properly equipped for this work. So we had some exercises, we did some thinking within ourselves, discussed among ourselves, and in the JNU library, which has been with the classified catalog code for about 2 decades, we took a decision that we go in for a change, and we changed to the AACR2 because we had to go along with the modernization, with the modern technology. We had to join networks, and in networks we have to exchange data. The data shall have to be in a standardized form, and different libraries having different, say, different cataloging procedures. We therefore decided to fall in line with the major libraries, and also we looked around outside Indian boundaries, and we found that AACR2 is the one code that shall meet our requirements, and we went in for that.
According to Professor Nanda, some of the points that should be kept in mind for successful implementation of the classified catalog code are:
the practical problems that we are to keep in mind while talking about CCC in the libraries in this country or anywhere are that the CCC was revised last in 1964. After departure of the grand old man, the father of library science in India, that's Dr. Ranganathan, we have not done much in the direction of research in this code. The result is that CCC still has some lacuna somewhere. For example, for micromaterial, for things like maps or non-conventional material, there is not much of rules to fall upon. We have therefore to do a lot of research to accommodate these things. Besides, we do not have a thesaurus type thing in the CCC. The researchers in CCC shall have to give us a thesaurus type thing that we need not go into chain procedure, we need not involve or spend our time in driving chain procedure and finding links and subject headings or descriptors, because we do not have enough time. The libraries are understaffed and we would like to have ready-made things, and for that the thesaurus comes handy, and here also the CCC shall have to either stand its ground by providing such type of things or to leave the field to some other code.
For last 2 years, JNU Library is using AACR2, but their earlier catalog is still there. In the classified catalog, we notice that, like the others, they have also incorporated imprint and collation. And like the Delhi University, they were following unit card system. Apart from that, they also do not have tracing section behind the main entry card. In essence, the CCC as propounded by Ranganathan has not been followed in any of these libraries. In other words, in the name of Ranganathan's CCC, they have made their own innovations. I doubt whether these could be justified under the cover of the canon of local variation. Having observed how this code is being followed in different libraries, let us know what the academicians have to say about it. In the first instance, we'll seek Professor Mangla's opinion about the significant features of the classified catalog code.
When we look at the classified catalog code of Ranganathan, I feel that this is one of the very important contributions of Ranganathan in the field of cataloging. I look at Ranganathan as a man who brought cataloging from something of a very routine nature to something which is of academic value. He not only introduced various systematizations, actually with the introduction of his 5 laws of library science, combined with his canons of cataloging, he created a sort of a conceptual framework in the field of cataloging, which gave us not only a facility to develop cataloging rules in a very scientific manner, but also provided us a framework which could be used in also evaluating the cataloging practices in libraries. As a teacher of cataloging earlier, I always found that the classified catalog code of Ranganathan was possibly the only code for preparing a classified catalog. The only one which I found written something about for preparing a classified catalog was the book by Shera and Egan, sometime in late 50s. I think the title of that book was The Classified Catalog. But otherwise, if we look at other cataloging codes which are available today, there is hardly anyone which goes into the details for preparing a classified catalog for a library. So in that respect, I will call Ranganathan's contribution to be unique in the context of making a classified catalog and also a code which is very comprehensive. When I use the word comprehensive, I mean here that you have rules here for making the main entries, for added entries. Also you have rules for preparing subject entries. You have also rules for alphabetization and almost anything you can think about. So in that case, I will look at classified catalog code as a unique contribution in the field of preparing a classified catalog for a library.
Professor Mangla says that the canons or principles of cataloging enunciated by Ranganathan provide conceptual framework for cataloging. Therefore, a teacher of cataloging should pay special attention to these canons and principles. It is also helpful to know Professor Guha's opinion in this regard.
The classified catalog code is based on the principles that were enunciated by Dr. Ranganathan himself, and every rule or any sub-rule in the whole classified catalog code ultimately revolves around these basic principles. There were the special principles of canons for cataloging, and there were general principles and canons also. Now, all the rules actually were revolving around these principles. So in that way, I feel as a teacher, it becomes imperative to give emphasis on these principles, and my effort has been first of all to give a general outline of the rules that are contained in this particular code, that is the classified catalog code, and then explain some of the important principles, and then relate the principles and the rules as one proceeds. That has been my experience, and it should be the duty of every teacher who wants to introduce well the classified catalog code to his students.
It is often said that cataloging, especially the classified catalog code, is a very dry and dull subject. One has to remember the rules by heart and prepare cards accordingly. There is not much of brain work in it. How could this be made more interesting?
When we have so many developments in the field of audio-visual aids, information technology, and so on, which should be utilized to the maximum extent by the teachers teaching cataloging in today's world. And in that particular context, it will be a very interesting exercise, for example, to say that here is an entry according to CCC, and here is an entry according to another cataloging code called AACR2, and I'll exhibit both the entries on a screen and tell the students that this is how one differs from the other. After all, the purpose of cataloging, whether according to CCC or AACR, is the same. But I will like to bring to the notice of the users and the students that why these variations have been incorporated, if at all there are variations, and the students should be exposed to these things in a comparative manner. But drawing these entries on blackboards may be a rather difficult job, a tiring job for the teacher. And in that particular context, if we have prepared slides, if we have used the overhead projectors, and even we can think of using computers if such facilities are available, that can be one way cataloging can be taught in a much more interesting manner, and also the students will also catch the things in a more comprehensive manner. Secondly, I will also insist that while teaching cataloging, we should not just go with the entries on the blackboard or through the audio-visual aids. We must bring books to the notice of the students so that they are really exposed to the various intricacies which are involved in cataloging documents today. It is very difficult to bring out all these intricacies in the classroom, but certainly the students must be exposed to all these things to the extent possible.
Evaluation of the student's performance in CCC is said to be more difficult. What Professor Mangla's opinion is in this regard?
I will look at cataloging as something which has to do with the overall framework of bringing documents to the notice of the users. And in that particular context, I will be more keen to see whether a student has followed the overall framework of cataloging as per the rules given in the cataloging code. And if later on I find that someone has not put a full stop but a comma, I'll not be very much worried about it. I'll still feel that he has followed the right track. And after all, this is a cataloging code, to be used while cataloging documents in libraries. And this is a code which will always be available to the catalogers on their tables in the library. So at that particular point, it is a reference tool which will be consulted off and on, and we will not be much worried about these details, which I very often call as unnecessary details, and I will look at it that we are trying to understand the overall framework of the cataloging entry.
Though the CCC is considered to be simple, systematic, and based on sound theoretical principles, we find that even in India, very less number of libraries are following it. What could be the reason behind this?
When Dr. Ranganathan introduced this code, that is the classified catalog code, for the first time, there was an amount of novelty in it. It was completely new in the context of the prevailing codes. In fact, the legacy of the earlier codes, and I would call it a considerable amount of deadwood in those codes, were also there. People were not likely to believe that such a simple description of a work or a book could be enough for a library catalog, because the bibliographical tradition was very much there to be found in most of the codes, and the recommendations were for elaborate bibliographical description of every item, irrespective of the nature of document, nature of the library, the use of the library, and so on. So what Ranganathan introduced was something absolutely new. So there was some amount of expectancy, whether or even disbelief as to whether this could be utilized in most of the libraries. I believe that was the main reason for not accepting this code for many of our libraries. And another point also I would like to mention here, that is the classified or the systematic mind of Ranganathan had arranged the rules of this code in such a way, especially the use of unscheduled mnemonics, which as one picked up the rules, became quite easier to follow the arrangement in the rules. But to an uninitiated, they looked very difficult. So there was a initial inertia sort of thing in accepting this code.
It is often said that Ranganathan formulated CCC to orient cataloging mainly through manual operations. Does Professor Mangla agree with this?
You are very right that it was a code which was meant primarily for manual operation. But at the same time, Ranganathan, with his imagination, and I am sure you will agree, that certainly he was far ahead of his time. Some of the things which we could anticipate 50 years ahead, he had started writing about them. And it was at that particular point of time he had even suggested that we could use the system of unit card. If the facilities for duplication were available in libraries, then he will suggest that there should be a master card, the main card, and all other cards could be easily duplicated. And in that particular context, it was just a mixture. He gave rules for a manually operated system, but at the same time, he had anticipated the usefulness of a unit card system, and in some of his writings, he had given indications that even a unit card system could be easily prepared, which would have meant that it was not a manually operated system, but also that we could make use of not only the photocopying or duplicating, but also printing of cards.
Professor Nanda earlier said that with the modernization and computerization of libraries, the CCC was found not to fulfill the requirements of the modern time. That's why the JNU library had to abandon it. Does this mean that with the advancement of modern technology, the practice of CCC is becoming obsolete? Is it so?
I believe it is on the contrary. For the simple reason that the exactness with which most of the rules in the classified catalog code were framed will be plus points in the use of computerized cataloging, whether it is in the matter of rendering or position or in the matter of punctuation. All these things were absolutely exactly recommended and framed in the classified catalog code. And these qualities will be very much needed and will be appreciated in the new context of computerized cataloging.
So we see that when CCC came into being, it was mainly meant for manual operations. But due to advancement of technology and to fulfill the requirements of the users, it is sometimes necessary to make certain changes, such as the incorporation of the collation and imprint and the unit card system, which is alien to CCC. While teaching CCC, special attention should be given to the canons or principles enunciated by Ranganathan. Cataloging is nothing but organized common sense. It is a skill which is to be practiced with reference to some set of rules. The ultimate aim of cataloging is to serve the end users of documents. Therefore, a student of cataloging should try to develop these skills properly. With this, we end our series on the classified catalog code.